But that's a very good point that you just made. Is don't listen to me and think, well, I got to be like Aaron and try to be this adaptive hunter. That may or may not work for you and your personality. That's why I like listening to all these different guests, like you mentioned of Bobby Worthington. Y'all had that gentleman on from down south that hunts on the ground primarily with recurve.
Travis Murray.
Yeah, and he just murks them down there. I mean, that was awesome. But that's what he's honed that craft for years and years and years, and that style of hunting and has gotten really good at it. Same with Warren. Same with Dan Infall hunting buck beds. There's little bits and pieces you can take away from everybody and be self-aware with what your personality is and what your situation is and what works best for you.
So I think you guys do a really good job of showcasing that. Is that something that y'all are really intentional about? Like y'all are just trying to teach that side of it?
Oh yeah, certainly. And that's the advantage that we have, is that we're able to go and travel around and see these different environments and these different situations. So we try to showcase the individual intricate details of those. Like I mentioned the Nuttall acorns a while ago. We don't have those up here. We don't have oak trees dropping acorns in January up here like that. Not to the same extent. It's a completely different dynamic and situation down there. The rut's way later. It's more of a trickle rut that is not like the one that we have up here. All of that is real interesting to me. Just learning how these deer move and react in those environments. That Georgia buck, it was in the post-rut time frame there, and we saw zero rutting activity for a week. Nothing. And that's common down there, where you'll hunt during the rut and you will not see it. I mean, a lot of the time. And then, boom, that buck and two other ones on a hot doe, we were thrust right into a lockdown situation, which we hadn't seen all week. We were hunting bed to food patterns and spot and stalk and doing some blind calling. We were throwing the kitchen sink at them, just trying to find something that worked with a bucket full of tactics. And eventually that one did work. It got really, really lucky, but it worked. That's not to throw shade, though, at people that rely and get really good at one tactic. Y'all were talking about Bobby Worthington a while ago, which is one of my all-time favorite podcasts. I mean, that is incredible as far as hunting like rut funnels and stuff. Incredible information. But and I hunt like that frequently, but not always. It just depends on where we're at and what's going on, how much time I have.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, you kind of got to figure it out for yourself and develop your own style. Yeah. And that's what Bobby did.
Yeah, and I like Zach. You brought up Zach a minute ago. He hates tree stands. Hates it. I mean, for years I drug him around out there and we were hunting out of trees. And he just is like, he wants to be out there walking around, looking around. So eventually he developed a style on the ground that works for him. But that's a very good point that you just made, is don't listen to me and think, well, I got to be like Aaron and try to be this adaptive hunter. That may or may not work for you and your personality. That's why I like listening to all these different guests, like you mentioned of Bobby Worthington. Y'all had that gentleman on from down south that hunts on the ground primarily with recurve.
Travis Murray.
Yeah, and he just murks them down there. I mean, that was awesome. But that's what he's honed that craft for years and years and years, and that style of hunting and has gotten really good at it. Same with Warren. Same with Dan Infall hunting buck beds. There's little bits and pieces you can take away from everybody and be self-aware with what your personality is and what your situation is and what works best for you. Is ultimately what's going to lead to more success down the road. There's a lot of people that get, so stuck in their ways once they get really good at something that they think this is the only way to skin the cat. This is how you have to do it. This is the way you've got to hunt. These guys don't pay attention to scent control. They're sloppy hunters. That's, I mean, you could, I think you could go too far, was what I'm trying to get at. It's like, yeah, you got really good at doing it one way, but there's a lot of other ways that you could do it as well. And you got to recognize that people are different, each and every one of us. We were talking about the shot stuff earlier with like pro archers talking about like squeezing through it, back tension releases, proper form, all that. That may work great for some people that fight target panic and all that. I want that thing at 12 yards. I want to put the pin on him and punch the trigger and kill him. That's how I do it. And that's how it's worked for me for years and years and years. I don't have time to sit there and settle that thing and squeeze my back muscles together and let it back tension and all that. I don't. But I'm not saying that's wrong. There's people that fight target panic every day that information is helping. So that's just an example of what I'm trying to get at. Your personality is different. You need to be self-aware of what that is and how you can take this information and apply it to your situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that's been actually kind of difficult for Jacob and I over the years. It's like we interview so many people who say the complete opposite thing from each other.
And like a waterfall.
Yeah. Like, what do I do? It's so true. We were talking about it yesterday. Like one guy will be like, do not hunt rub lines. You're not going to see a buck that don't work. The literally next guy will be like, you need to hunt rub lines.
Yep.
Yeah. But they both kill deer.
Yeah.
And they just got good at what they're good at. They develop their own style.
And that's the thing you got to be careful with whitetails is there's so many different ways to be successful killing whitetail deer. So many different ways. And there's really not a wrong way as long as it's legal to kill whitetails. It's just you've got to figure out, like you said, based off your personality, your time, experience level, what could work for you and try to implement a little bit of that. But also what we hear from listeners all the time, and I don't know, you might hear from fans as well about this. They try to get they connect so much to this one person because the way they hunt, like the way this guest hunts deer, that they try it and they try it for a whole season, and it's like it's not for them. They're like, I really liked what he said, but I can't really apply what he's doing based off where I'm hunting and experience level and so on. And you got to be careful with that as well, and kind of piece together what works for you, and then again get out in the field and experience it and fail and learn from the failures. Ask why did it work? Why did it not work? And then try to learn from that situation to hopefully make yourself better the next opportunity that you get.
100%. And one thing, this may ruffle some feathers of some experts out there, but one thing I hear over and over again from quote-unquote experts or people that have a ton of experience, they've got a wall full of big bucks or whatever, if you listen to them long enough, they're either going to admit their weakness or they're going to show it somehow. Because if you fall into that, like that method that works so well, and you go through time and you get older and older, accumulating this wisdom on how to do that this way, you start to get tunnel vision a little bit, and you start to think like, this is the way it has to be done. This is the way I do it, and I've got a wall of big bucks, and I know everything there is to know about this. Well, then all of a sudden, you start to have weaknesses that you're not aware of because your ego has clouded your judgment. I see that happen a lot in all walks of life, business, hunting, everything. I'm not going to go and pick on these guys individually, but I think that's an important thing. Know what your strengths and weaknesses are and work on your weaknesses. Play to your strengths when you can, but this is a learning process it's something you're never, ever going to master. You're never going to. So you might as well be humble about it and think about how you can improve all the time. You're going to have success if you go into it with that mindset, I feel like. I'm good at getting in good setups on deer. I am not as good at long range archery shooting. Like I need to work on that more, and maybe that will help me become a better shot. I'm good at killing them at certain distances and doing it consistently, but I'm not real good. Like I don't have the confidence at 30 yards to kill them, as y'all can probably tell by me talking about, taking those shots. I don't have that. And I overthink things. So I'll get in a spot, like you were talking about looking at your Onyx, like, do I go here? Do I go here? Or wind's coming out of here? And the guys that make fun of me all the time for that, because I'll sit there in the truck, paralysis by analysis, for an hour straight and not know what I'm going to do. Whereas Ted just goes off instinct. He's like, fresh rub over here. Let's go here. Done. Doesn't think about it anymore. But if you put the two of us together, we work pretty good because I'm thinking about things that he's not, but he's also not letting me overthink it. He's like, instincts are taking us here. Let's do that. Got good information from you. Instincts taking us here. We'll combine the two and make a good decision. So that's something I fight all the time, though, is a mental aspect.
And I'm glad you admitted, you have that analysis by paralysis aspect.
Yeah.
Or paralysis by analysis, however you want to say it. But because that's something me and Andrew both relate with. It's like, I remember times, it's still like this day, you get to a tree and like you have confidence up and then you get there and all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, maybe I need to get in that tree. Maybe I've hunted this tree is good, but it's like, maybe I need to move here because of what happened. And then you sit there and there's 30 minutes goes by and you're just analyzing trees. And then you walk up to the tree, you're like, no, this ain't the right tree. Pack the sticks back up, walk over to the next tree. Anyways, I think that's relatable to a lot of people who's they're trying to learn and they're trying to like, maybe they get too much in their head and, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But I'm glad you admitted that.
The opposite side of that is true too. Mm-hmm. You may be failing a lot because of things you didn't think about. So try to improve that aspect of your game a little bit. Mm-hmm. It just depends on who you are.